All right, Jesse on fire. Welcome back to the channel. So I watched the Justin Gaethje and Khabib press conference yesterday, and given the context of the videos that I've been making about this fight, I have to update my stance. All right, and now I'm even more excited for this fight. But the reason I didn't post a video on it yesterday is because I was putting up a fire video on Jesse on everything. I don't understand if you guys like follow this content all the time and are not watching the other one, like it's a better channel. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I'm doing MMA here. I'm doing everything over there. It's better. It's better content. I promise you that. So go give it a look. But so let's talk about this press. So Jesse on everything. Okay, that's the channel. Anyway, so let's talk about this though. Good God, man. This I don't think I've been this fired up for a fight that Conor McGregor was not in, like ever, actually. As a matter of fact, I know I haven't. I am more fired up for this fight than any other fight that Conor wasn't in. It's just plain and simple, right? And you guys know I break Conor's balls on here all the time, which should make clear that I can be objective in any scenario. No matter who I have money on, no matter who I'm rooting for, I'll always be objective on this channel. And man, I watched that. Okay, so what have I been saying, right? I've been saying that Khabib might be looking past Justin. I was wrong. He's definitely not looking past Justin. Not at all. So oh my God, there's so much I want to cover here. Okay, so number one, I said that when Khabib said that he would look at Michael Chandler as a number one contender if he fought Islam Makhachev, which looks like he doesn't have an opponent, I guess, or I don't know. It seems crazy. They're all locked on Fight Island. There's a million fighters there. No one wants to fight him. Like, I mean, I know he's tough and everything, but like, really, no one's going to take that fight? Bunch of pansies. But anyway, especially Michael Chandler. Like, why wouldn't you take that fight, dude? Like, why would you just got in the UFC? You trained for this fight. Fight Islam Makhachev. But anyway, so Khabib was just trying to get him an opponent, which, like I said, if that's what he's doing, not only does that erase me saying that he's looking past Justin Gaethje, it makes me commend him that he would take the time while he's training for the hardest fight of his life to go out of his way, call Chael Sonnen, and be thinking about trying to get his boy a fight, you know? Like, I love that, right? But like every time they asked him anything about what are you doing after this, he gave the correct answer now, which was, I don't like, they're like, so if you win, Khabib, do you think that you'll do, do you think, and I don't like this word if. I don't like this word if. I'm fighting Justin Gaethje. We could talk about everything else afterwards. And I was like, there it is. That's what I was looking for all along, right? Now, there are still questions around his ability to run his own camp, or for his oh God, the head coach that we talked about last time, to run his camp, right? His dad's not there. His dad was like it was not like a dad coach. Like, this is the thing that I didn't realize was like, his dad's his head coach, but we know he trains out of AKA. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, so his dad was training him in Dagestan, but now he came to America and he's been doing all of his camps at AKA. So is his dad like really his head coach? Or is his dad just kind of like, I don't know, helping out, but he really trains out of AKA? How important is his dad really? And I'm telling you, when I saw those videos, where it was, God, how am I forgetting this guy's name? I literally just talked about him on my other video, but Khabib's head coach at AKA, and I was watching the two of them, Abdulmanap and him, interact, and it was like, oh, Abdulmanap's the man. Like, Abdulmanap's the man in that relationship. Like, there's no confusion if two people are talking at once, who's gonna stop talking, right? And then I watched Khabib doing laps, and Abdulmanap getting on him about running faster, and Khabib kind of hopped to it, and I was like, oh man, like he's like, and this was clearly, like, Abdulmanap was older, it was very clearly a very recent video, and I'm like, man, he was like a central figure in Khabib's training. Like, so there's two ways to look at that, right? I mean, well, there's only one way, which is something is different, right? So Khabib has won every fight in absolutely, utterly dominant fashion, right? No one has there's never been a close decision as far as I know. There's never been a time where he wasn't clearly the better fighter. He's annihilated everyone. And he had a very specific set of circumstances that do not exist anymore, right? I mean, and so, but the thing is so something's different, right? But that thing is that he is now fighting for his father's legacy with tremendous emotion. So he might have the performance of his life. I mean, it's very possible. It's very possible that he is going to have the performance of his life where he's going to be like, like kind of like propelled to even higher levels than he's ever had before, which seems kind of unfathomable. I don't believe he's trained harder. I don't believe that. I don't believe he's trained harder. And we're going to talk about Justin Gaethje as it relates to that. I just don't believe it because I don't think he was leaving anything on the table. I think his dad made sure that he trained as hard as he possibly could. I think he's the kind of person who trains as hard as he possibly can. And that speaks to a lot of his success, right? But when he's actually in there, if he gets in a tough spot, which he might against Justin Gaethje, he might have another level to go to, right? Or it might not service him. You just don't know, and we're going to find out on Saturday. But relating to Justin Gaethje, like listening to his stuff was... I can't. This is the thing, man. Normally, like the reason why I respond so well to Conor is, like I've said this a million times, I just relate to the guy. If I would have dedicated my life to fighting, had monkey arms, and I was as talented as Conor, and I was in the position that Conor was in, I mean, he would never see any sexual assault stuff with me, obviously, but like, I relate to the guy. I see him and I understand him. I understand how he feels. I understand how he's operating, and like, I think that my own experience would mimic his pretty closely, where there are other guys. So that's why I like him so much. And kind of George Masvidal as well. I see a lot of myself in George Masvidal. They don't really seem super similar, but they actually are. They play it a little bit different, but they're very, very similar. Colby Covington is doing an act. As a matter of fact, actually, Colby is not really very much like Masvidal or Conor underneath it, if you watch the old videos of him. But anyway, it's neither here nor there, okay? Point being, that is one of those things that I kind of like, connect with, and Cody Garbrandt as well. But then there's this other group that I kind of connect with because there's something that they do that I respect immensely. That maybe I know I don't kind of perform the way they do, which is like guys like Khabib and Justin Gaethje who are just quiet. And they work so hard, like where their goal, like in their mind, this is the thing. So what Justin Gaethje said was, or what he's basically been saying, I watched the Joe Rogan podcast again, and I watched that thing, is Justin Gaethje attributes hard work to success. It's literally that simple. Like, he believes in his mind, his driving force has always been, if I work harder than anyone else can work, then when I go in and compete, they can't beat me, right? Because what dictates victory or loss is the amount of work that you've put in. And so I'm going to work harder than anyone else can work, so it's literally impossible that someone can beat me, right? Because I've worked harder than them. That is honestly the way that Justin Gaethje looks at it, right? And so, which translated into how he fought prior to the Dustin Poirier and Eddie Alvarez fight, was he's like, I've worked harder than them, so I can go in there, reckless abandon, lunatic, and I'll break them. They'll break before I do because I've worked harder than them. Like that is, I guarantee, listen, I would literally let you chop one of my arms off if you got Justin Gaethje in a room and you asked him, so let me just show you this clip of what Jesse on Fire said, and you tell me if this is accurate. And you played that clip where I said, the way Justin Gaethje looks at it is if he's worked harder than you, you can't beat him. And so prior to Dustin, like I was just saying, prior to Dustin Poirier and prior to Eddie Alvarez, in his mind, it doesn't really matter how he fights strategically, because if he's worked harder than the other guy, they're going to break. He's going to drown him because he can go places they can't go because he's worked harder than they have. He's more prepared, so he can just put it on them, and they'll break and they'll wilt and they'll break. And the reason why he's confident enough to do that is because he's outworked them, right? And so there's something about that, man, I mean, how could you not respect that, right? How could you not respect that? Think about that. Like the guy, he's just like, I'm just going to literally work so hard that that it's impossible for someone to outwork me. Impossible. And when you heard him talk about in another interview, he said, it's possible Khabib's worked as hard as me. It's not possible that he's worked harder than me. It's impossible. He's worked harder than me throughout his entire life. He's like, since I've been 4 years old, it is not possible he's outworked me. And I'm sitting there thinking, think about who he's talking about. He's talking about fucking Khabib, who grew up with Abdulmanap, who's like a world champion in every combat sport, and then created Dagestan MMA, is his dad. And he's an undefeated world champion who grew up in fucking Dagestan in the mountains of Russia, Russian Dagestan. And Justin Gaethje can confidently just look at any single person and bulletproof confidence go, it is impossible he's worked harder than me. It's not possible. Which means that Justin knows no one could have outworked him. No one. It's impossible to have worked harder than me. And there's just, how do you not look, like, how do you not hear that and just go, fuck, that's amazing, man. And you know what? I think Khabib probably has worked about as hard as Justin, right? And so, like, when you think about that in the context of this fight, right? You think about that in the context of this fight, and it's just like, I just, like, this is gonna be the best fight ever. Like, it's literally, like, it's gonna be amazing. This is literally two men that are both immovable objects, and they're going to smash into each other on Saturday night with everything on the line. Everything on the line. Okay? Like, this fight means more to Justin Gaethje than anything could ever mean to anyone. And think about what it means for Khabib. This is his first fight after his dad died, and his dad's dream is for him to get to 30-0. Okay? There's never been anyone who wants to win a fight more than Khabib wants to win this fight. So, it's like, if you think that, like, everyone goes into every fight like that, you're wrong. I mean, like, there's no reason for you to think that, actually. But if you think everyone goes into every title fight like that, you're wrong. You know? Like, someone's getting a title shot. If you believe that they're putting as much weight on it as Khabib is putting on it and Justin Gaethje's putting on this, you're wrong. Like, I mean, you're just not. You're just wrong. It is about the amount of work they've put in, okay? So if a person picked up MMA when they were, 16 years old, 17 years old, whatever, right? And then 10 years later, which would obviously be a short time frame for them to all of a sudden be in a title. But, like, let's just say that, they're 27, they get a title shot. Or 30, whatever. So 13 years of training, and then they get a title shot. And they're a person who kind of, trains like a regular person. It's not the same thing as I have literally spent every waking minute of my entire life training for this moment, which is Justin Gaethje, right? Where his whole mindset, training for wrestling, then training for MMA. I will train harder than the next guy. So in his mind, he has literally spent his entire life training for this moment to fight against an undefeated MMA champion who is considered the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, who's lost one round that he barely lost, right? No one's even been able to take a fucking round off this guy. And Justin Gaethje's been training his whole life for it. And the way that Khabib beats everyone is by taking him down, and Justin Gaethje's specialty is by never getting taken down and controlled. And you know what? Some guys made some good points in the comments. I want to speak on that actually real quick. So some people made someone made a good point in the comments. They were like, it's not true that Justin Gaethje's never been taken down and controlled. He got taken down in the Khabib fight. He got taken down in this other fight. And he actually, the Khabib guy took his back. And actually so let me actually speak on that. I meant to do this in another video. So here's the thing. So the guy Khabib taking his back, that actually did kind of go like this to me in terms of me thinking about this fight, because I was always like, even if Khabib takes him down, like, Gaethje is such a good wrestler, he's such a good scrambler, he's probably going to be able to get back up. Watching that fight, where once they were on the ground, the guy Khabib was able to take his back, that I was like, oh shit. Well, if this guy can take his back, I mean, Khabib is probably going to be able, I mean, obviously I'm sure that he's improved, hopefully, since then. That was the only part because the takedown itself, that was nothing. Like, that was an absolute non-starter in terms of, like, analyzation of that compared to this fight. He did a flying jump knee into the guy. Like, he was fighting with fundamental outright disregard of getting taken down. No defense at all against getting taken down. Like, matter of fact, let me just go completely crazy and put myself in the easiest possible position for someone to take me down is basically what he was doing. Okay, he's not going to do that against Khabib. So the takedown itself was meaningless. But the fact that Khabib was able to advance positions and take his back, that was not meaningless, right? That was not meaningless. And that was in the middle of the octagon. That wasn't up against the fence. Okay, now that Khabib guy might be some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wizard. I have no idea. I doubt it. But, like, he did get taken down. His own fault that he would never have that particular way. That's not going to happen against Khabib. But the guy advanced, took his back. So, it matters. That one mattered. but not the takedown part. So, you know, when he said that he fought against, or he wrestled Justin Burroughs, and Justin Burroughs could not take him down. Like, couldn't take him down. He said he defended his double leg a million times. No one defends against that double leg, he said. So we'll see. I mean, honestly, I like, if Khabib wins, dude, I might cry thinking about that. You know, like I might legit cry, and not like because I lost my bet. The only reason I bet on Justin Gaethje, like I said, is because they're going 3-1. It's insulting. It's insulting to people who actually know what they're talking about to put odds out there and just dare me to take that bet. Like, I'm gonna take that bet. 3-1. It's absurd. It is patently absurd. Khabib should be a favorite. He should be a minus 150, and Justin Gaethje should be like a plus 135, maybe plus 150, max. Plus 265, ludicrous. I'll take that bet all day long. But yeah, man. I mean, it's just. Oh, the other thing that Justin Gaethje said, he's gonna the second that the bell goes off, he's gonna retire his mom. I was like, man, that's awesome. Oh, another thing too. So Daniel Cormier was doing an interview. If you made it this far, I'll give you this little nugget. Daniel Cormier was doing an interview about the fight, and he, kind of inadvertently revealed some fighter pay stuff, right? So it's always like this mystery how much guys get paid. You know, now Conor McGregor got paid $30 million for the Cowboy fight, and that was in the Forbes article. Although, kind of, I don't know. Now hearing this and knowing that Forbes kind of pulls these numbers out of outer space, who knows? You know, I'm not necessarily sure that that's true. But anyway, so what DC said is, he said that when he first met Khabib told him, he's like, I'm going to be an undefeated world champion, and I'm going to be making $10 million a fight someday. And DC was like, what? He's like, no one makes $10 million a fight. No one. And he's like, I'm pretty sure he's making $10 million on Saturday. And so if $10 million is like a big threshold, that's surprising to me, actually. I mean, I don't know. John Jones, we knew John Jones made $5 million a fight, including pay-per-view back end. And I know that like the pay-per-view numbers kind of ascend as you as you sell more, your commission becomes higher. So like you get paid a certain rip on 0 through 250,000 buys, a higher rip on 250 to 500, a higher rip on 500 to whatever. So that's why like when Masvidal's hit 1.3 million, he just crushed it because on that last I think once you get over 750,000, you're getting paid your top commission, and he's got like 550,000 buys at the absolute top, commission levels. He just must have absolutely murdered it on that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if John Jones makes $5 million a fight, and Khabib is probably making 10, if Conor made 30, I don't know, man. How do you justify that? Like, I get it, because you know what I mean. It's like, okay, so Conor comes in and fights, and he guarantees, how much, like a certain amount of pay-per-view. Although Dana said he makes $20 million at the gate when they do live show, like live gates. That's a big number, man. Like all the highest gates are all Conor, but triple what like the highest possible bar would be seems ludicrous. But again, I mean, there's always financial metrics behind any of these deals. And Conor is he's the automatic magnet for eyeballs. Like he is going to sell a bunch. I mean, they put him up against Cowboy on short notice, a handpicked fighter who had lost his last two. that is the perfect matchup ever. And Conor makes $30 million. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure that the company made a ton of money on that event. So anyway, that's what I got. I literally have no idea who's going to win this fight. I really, really don't. I have no idea. I don't. I think that Justin Gaethje's going to win. I actually really do. I just do. The other thing that Justin Gaethje said, sorry, I keep pretending like I'm going to end this video and then I remember something. So one thing Justin Gaethje said is he's like, I can't wait to surprise myself again. And on the Joe Rogan podcast, one other thing that he said was, he was like, it's important for me, like as soon as I feel that high at the end of a fight, it's amazing, and I immediately make sure that I bring myself back down. Bring myself back down, even keel, Don't let myself feel the high for too long, because then that comes with a subsequent down. He's like, I want to stay right in the middle. And Joe Rogan's like, well, how long did you let yourself feel the high? He's like 2 minutes. I was like, 2 minutes? You're like, you could give it an hour, you know, or like give it 2 days. You just beat Tony Ferguson, and now you guaranteed yourself a gigantic payday against, you know, and a shot to fight Khabib. Like 2 minutes. And he said he just brought himself right back down. And his whole goal is to stay as humble as possible, right? And to go in thinking this guy can crush me, and then surprise yourself, you know, and then surprise himself. And that's what he said in the interview. He said, I can't wait to surprise myself again. I was like, man, I don't know, man. I just have this feeling that Gaethje's going to win. I really do. And I'm not rooting against Khabib. I'm really not. Even though I made a big bet on Gaethje, it's not enough money that would like sway really who I root on for. That's literally just like a financial investment. But again, I just have always had this feeling that he is Khabib. I don't think anyone else can beat Khabib. Okay, let me just put that out there. I think if Khabib fights any other 155 pounder in the history of the division, he'll crush them. And for some reason, I just have this feeling that Gaethje's going to beat him. And I first said that in February, you know, before he fought Tony Ferguson. So anyway, that's what I got. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell.